Welcome to Mangastorian's complete story series. Today we're going to be covering the next parts of Berserk. All alterations of the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems at all. Art is owned by its respective companies. In our last video, Guts found himself in a fighting competition where he learned that the Hawks were now being led by a woman and are currently being hunted by the Midland armies. As Guts returns to the Hawks, he found that they were under attack by one of the fighters that he had defeated back in the competition. Taking his loss as a disgrace, the man attempted to fight Guts again and soon lost a second time and retreated. A short while later, after the battle, the Hawks set up camp so that the injured could tend to their wounds. While the camp was set, Rickard explains to Guts what happened to Griffith and how his behavior changed right after the two of them had their conversation. Before we could go any further though, Judo grabs Rickard by the shoulder and shakes his head. Judo then says that in the course of a year, the Hawks have shrank to a fifth of what they once were, and if it wasn't for Casca stepping up, they would have faded completely. Just as they were attacked, Casca took charge, and because of it, they managed to escape without losing their forces. Judo goes on to state that with everything that's been happening, they've been forced to lay low, and with their spy in the castle, they've come up with a plan to free Griffith. Guts looks out at the rest of the soldiers who remained, and he says that the place that he came back to didn't change at all, and that's a nice thing. Everyone asks Guts what he was doing for the past year. Word of the Hawks being hunted spread rather quickly. Guts held out his sword and he told them that he hid himself in a cave, that he's been practicing with his weapon. Judo then asks if he found what he was looking for yet, and Guts smiles and tells him, not yet. Soon Gaston and the rest of them crowd around telling Guts that it's time to stop talking about the serious stuff, and it's time to have a drink. Everyone starts to pull Guts away and Judo stops him, telling him that he has one more thing to tell him about Casca. A year ago when she was injured, she was delirious for 3 days, but as she slept, she kept calling for Griffith and him. Guts looks over at Casca, and as Casca looks back at him, she quickly turns back to the squad, acting as if she didn't see Guts. As the soldiers begin to get ready to turn in for the night, Guts stands off alone as he normally does, but this time, Casca comes to visit him, and she tells him that he needs to come with her. Once the two of them walk away, she tells him to get ready for battle. And before Guts can ask what's going on, she takes out her sword and she swings. By quickly turning, Guts blocks the attack with the hilt of his sword, and then he sees the look in Casca's eye. He tells her that that swing was full of hatred, and without saying a word, she thrusts her sword right back at Guts. She unrelentlessly swings as Guts continues to dodge the attack, and she tells him to take his sword out and fight her already. As she swings again, Guts sticks out his foot and he trips her, causing her to fall. He says that she can at least give him a reason as to why she's attacking. As Casca starts to pick herself back up, she looks at Guts and tells him, it's all because of him. He destroyed everything. Once she gets back on her feet, Casca runs back in swinging. So Guts holds out his sword, stopping her from cutting off his head. All the while, Casca screams how it was because of him that Griffith got depressed and weak. She thrusts one last time, shouting Griffith couldn't do anything without him. And Guts stops and instead of blocking the attack, allows it to strike. He holds the blade in his side and the two of them stare at each other, and blood begins to drip from his hand. She tells him that's enough, and while holding the blade, Guts tells her, I was doing what I had to do. What else could I do? Tears start to fall from Casca's face, and she tells him to let go already, and then she falls to her knees. She begins to laugh, stating that she can't take it anymore. All she ever wanted was to be Griffith's sword. She wanted to be with him. She goes on stating that she's not stupid though. She knew that Griffith's goal was to sit on the throne of Midland, and marrying Charlotte would have been the quickest way. However, with what happened back then, she realized that there was no space for her around Griffith, so her dream was finished. She'd worked hard for the Hawks, and now she can't protect them anymore. So she leaves the rest to him. Casca's body slowly begins to fall back, falling over the edge of the cliff. But suddenly, Guts' hand reaches out, grabbing her. As his blood continues to drip from his hand, he pulls her up and throws her back in the ground. He asks her, what the hell are you thinking? And she gets closer and tells him he always bleeds for her. With tears running down her face, she calls him a fool. He pushes her hair from her forehead to kiss it. And as he does, Casca tilts her head up and the two of them kiss. A short while later, Guts leans over Casca's naked body and he asks if she's scared. She tells him yes. She feels like she's changed. The love she felt while fighting now seems all fake, like it's all disappearing. Guts then looks her over, noticing all of the scars. She pulls away, stating that she shouldn't have those kinds of scars because she's a woman. Guts grabs a hold of her and holds her close, telling her that she can't think about such stupid things. Just feel her life. That's all. As the two kiss, Casca tells herself that the feelings that she has for Guts are not fake. The two bodies begin to twist around each other, and through their passion, Guts begins to see himself in the same position, back when Donovan held them down. All he can remember was what Donovan told him, how he was sold by Gambino. Casca turns back asking what's wrong, and then Guts slowly begins to raise his hands and place them around her neck. The visions continue just like when Donovan held him, and soon he sees himself holding onto a younger version of himself. However, as the grip begins to tighten, Casca begins to cough, and soon falls down. She She asks why, and Guts slams his arms against the tree, stating that he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to kill Gambino. Guts then begins to laugh, stating he couldn't resist the power of a child, so he killed Donovan by putting an arrow in his back. Casca asks if he killed Gambino because he attacked him, and Guts slams his hand, stating no! Guts says that he didn't want to kill Gambino. He took him home as a baby and taught him how to use a sword. Why would he sell him out to that pig? And then he realized, too late, that his sword was already at Gambino's throat. Guts continues to shout that he's so sorry to Gambino. He's so sorry, father. And as Guts' tantrums stop, Casca reaches out, and Guts quickly snaps back to reality. He's been crying, telling her although this was her first time, he screwed it up. He then threw his cloak over her, stating that he knows it's impossible to forget this. So if she wants him to disappear, he will. Or he can repay her during the upcoming battle. It goes on stating that not once this year did he think about it. And why now all of a sudden? Without saying any words, Casca hugs Guts from behind. And she tells him that he has seen all of her, even her weak spots, and now she feels like they're equals. Her hand runs over Guts' scars, and she tells him that all of these injuries were because of her. So even if it tears them apart, she wants a scar on her body from him. The two fall to their knees and they go back to kissing. And a little while later, the two fall asleep. Some time begins to pass, and Casca leans up, stating that for her first time, that was amazing, even though he was kind of violent. She goes on stating that she can't blame him though. Back then, he never liked when people touched him, so it's probably from the same thing, right? Guts turns over, stating that if it's her, then it's okay. Only her touch doesn't offend him. Casca smiles and then says that after they save Griffith, he should stay with them in the Hawks, just like before. Guts stops her, telling her, no, this was only temporary. I need to stay separated. As he looks back at the waterfall, Guts mentions how he stayed there once. Except back then, it was for training, so he tried to cut the falling logs from the top. He wasn't successful, and he ended up breaking his sword. He spent some time with a blacksmith named Godo, who stayed alone supporting himself with his daughter Erica. And back then, it gave him time to reflect on this dream. As he stared at his sword, he began to wonder if the sword was his dream. The sword was like an extension of him, and it allowed him to escape countless places where he should have died. Everything though that he has done, the people that he has met, the pain that he has been through, the sword has always been at his side, making sure that he survives. Or maybe it's because he's attracted to the sparks that it makes as the swords swing against each other in battle. The one thing that he does know though, is that he wants to create his own sparks. Back in the current times, Guts goes on stating that he would like to stay and help rescue Griffith and reassemble the Hawks, but after that he'll go in his own way. Casca begins to laugh, telling Guts that he really is like Griffith, and then throws a fist full of leaves in his face. She stands up, telling him that all of their dreams are selfish. All they think about is themselves. Doesn't matter if she even exists. She continues shouting and telling him, but Guts tells her that they should go together. He doesn't know what'll happen in the future, but staying with someone against everything that he's ever done, it could be trouble, but it could be great. If it's like this, then he needs more. From now on, there's gonna be 100 moments like this. No, 1,000 moments like this, and he will take care of her. Casca tells him that he's stupid, and Guts says not to call him that. He has feelings, you know. The two awkwardly stare at each other, and they kiss. However, 3 days later in those same woods, a strange phenomenon occurred. Rumors among hunters began to spread as they talk about what they saw in the light. The huge, snake-like creature. And soon, the time for the eclipse will begin. The story of Berserk continues, and we're about to get to the chapters that take place after all of the current animes that you probably have watched. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Mangastorian. I'll see you next time right here.